Good evening. We're going to get started now. I'd like to welcome you all to our fall meeting forum. And I'd like to always start by asking our past presidents of this organization to please stand so that we can recognize them and give our thanks to them for serving this organization. I think we have a few here tonight. Thank you. Our forum tonight is entitled Bridging the Gap, a dialogue on Cleveland Water Department customer service improvements. As one of the city's greatest assets, Cleveland's Division of Water delivers clean water to more than 1.5 million customers from 70 communities daily. From Lake Erie to the tap, the Cleveland Water Department earns high marks for providing clean, high-quality drinking water. In order to improve customer service delivery, the Cleveland Water Division of Water has engaged in a comprehensive customer service turnaround project. This project has impacted the full meter to cash process and included a comprehensive system and process review of the 5 key customer service areas: meter operations, meter reading, customer billing, the call center, and collections. Using a combination of system and process improvements, the Cleveland Water Department Turnaround Project has worked to ensure accurate meter readings, accurate bills for customers, quickly answering customer call and first call resolution, collecting money owed to the Cleveland Water Department for water usage, and improved responsiveness to the needs of our jurisdictional partners. Now we have tonight with us the director of the Cleveland Division of Water, Mr. Barry Withers, and he's going to start the presentation. Mr. Withers.
Thank you for having me here. I want to take this opportunity to maybe tell you a little bit about the Cleveland Division of Water, tell you a little bit about the Department of Public Utilities, and I'll make a slight correction. I'm the director of the Department of Public Utilities, which has 3 major divisions. Has a Division of Water, which is the largest division, have Cleveland Public Power, which is a power utility, and has Water Pollution Control, which is a sewer service that serves the city of Cleveland. And so as a department, we are a department that have in excess of 1,500 employees, and we serve a multitude of utility services and needs. So I wanted to make that the distinction. I also want to tell you a little bit about the Cleveland Division of Water, so you can get some perspective of the type of work that we do. The Division of Water, I think as was said earlier, we serve approximately 1.5 million citizens. We have in excess of 400,000 metered accounts. And in last year, we produced 82 billion gallons of water. We have 5 water plants. That means we have redundancy. We can get water any place in the county, and we respond, I think, very, very quickly to water main breaks and emergencies. Since the blackout, we've added a lot of portable capacity in terms of redundant power systems. So even with a power outage, I don't think you've noticed that even some of the recent power outages, we've still been able to pump water. So we believe we have one of the best water systems in the country. And as someone who's lived some other places, I'm sure you have some of the best tasting water anywhere. Over the last 2 years, about 2 years ago, we transitioned to a new billing system. And that billing system, which is, we believe has potential to be one of the best things that we can do to help our customers, presented some problems to us. And those problems, which I think we'll be able to speak to a little bit during the presentation, sort of point out some things we need to do in terms of how we approach customer-facing issues. We have spent over the last 10 years almost $700 million on enhancements to our plants. Our plants are now state-of-the-art plants. We are able to make sure that we can take plants down and not have any discontinuation of service. And we've concentrated all our efforts on the production of water. And I think we did so at the expense of providing the basic, what we would call back office functions, such as metering, customer service, collection, phone service, etc. And so over the last couple of years, we've been trying to address some of those issues. We believe that we will be able to resolve our issue with customer service next year or so. When we do that, I would guarantee we'd have one of the best water systems anywhere, not only in the state, not only the country, but anywhere. We're some of the best employees, and we provide the best service. And I think that in the 150 years we've been operating water, I think we've been able to sort of prove that. What I'd like to do is to kind of introduce you to two people. One is a gentleman by the name of Paul Bender, and Paul is a known or renowned, a very experienced water professional who's worked in a number of major water systems, who was hired to oversee a turnaround process. I think it was one of the best things that we've done. I think that it was Samuel Clemens who said that the difference between a word and the right word is different between lightning and a lightning bug. I believe that having the best turnaround team and to make these changes is the same type of analogy. So I'd like to introduce Mr. Bender. Also, on my staff, or our staff, we're very fortunate to have a very talented young man by the name of Jason Wood. Let me be proper, Dr. Jason Wood, and who will be sort of walking you through a process that we've gone through to try to resolve some what we think some very fundamental and very important customer service issues, and to show you the progress and to give you a sort of a snapshot of where we are at this moment in time. And afterwards, we're more glad to respond to any questions, etc. But so I turn it over to Mr. Bender.
Thank you, Barry. Thanks, Barry. Yes, really glad to be with you this evening. As Barry said, I was hired as the city's project manager for this project. We started in May of this past year, so we've been at it about 5.5 months. The project runs through June of next year, so a total of about a year. And we just want to share with you tonight the scope of the project, what we've been doing, what we've been working on. I think there have been some good successes. There's a lot of work still to do, but show you where we're headed. And I think it really does cover the entire range of customer service issues that all of you, I'm sure, are very well aware of. And then, of course, be glad to respond to questions after that. Can you focus that? Is that possible? There we go. Great. Yeah, we'll talk about the turnaround project, the goals. I think you've heard about that already. Actions and accomplishments, what we've done, sort of an overall evaluation of the operations, what we found when we got here and where we're at today. And then phase 2, the project was divided by City Council into 2 phases. We've just completed the first phase, and the second phase will complete the project in June. And then Jason will walk you through some of the recent organizational changes, which are very key to continuing and building on the things that we've done so far. The goals you heard, nothing magic about this. You know, getting accurate meter readings, getting the right equipment in the ground, and getting those readings into the system. That's what a modern, well-run utility does. Quickly answering calls and taking care of calls on the first time that a customer calls in, something that we've had trouble with. collecting money owed to CWD, and you'll see some fairly significant issues there. To the extent that that we don't collect, then the costs are the same. So obviously that would raise other customers' bills. So it's an equitable issue there to be sure that we're collecting from everybody. And then a very critical one, being more responsive to many of you in this room, the jurisdictional partners that the Water Division provides billing services for, whether it's wastewater billings or some of the local charges that you bill for. I think we've had some difficulty in that area. A couple of the issues that we ran across initially in delivering on these goals, in addition to the system issues, I think the perception was maybe that the system was at fault. Really, we found that the system, by and large, it's a very good system. It's as good as there is out there. It's what most of the well-run utilities now are going to. It's an Oracle system that was purchased. They purchased a state-of-the-art system and turned it into an Oracle-based system. It's a very good system, and we didn't find a lot of issues with that. But we did find a lot of what we call ineffective operating processes, where a lot of employees were doing the same job that they had been doing for the last 30 years, even though the system now required different processes. Non-optimal organization structure and staffing, and I'll give a few examples of that, but where we say the call center was divided into several different groups rather than having one call center operation, which is pretty typical today. Lack of daily, weekly, and monthly metrics. The organization really didn't run on the basis of productivity that just is sort of standard in the business today. How many calls are being taken, how many calls are reps taking, and coaching customer reps to be able to get up to speed. So having those kinds of metrics to be able to operate the business each day were not in place. When we started, there were large backlogs across the organization. Now, I would say that the organization made a huge effort and really pulled these backlogs down from where they were initially. I think I looked at the newspapers, some of the articles going back to September of '09, early in 2010. And so the backlogs were much reduced, but still not where they needed to be able to run effectively each day. And then a lot of competing projects. I think what we found was a tremendous number of very good things being done, but independently. The things were not coordinated, and having everybody work on the same work plan, work at the same issues in a prioritized fashion. Actions and accomplishments. Really, the phase one was divided into, had two main objectives. Number one was to stabilize operations, get the bills out that had backlogged, begin answering the phones promptly, make sure that there were no serious deficiencies with the billing system. The issues that were there, fix those most critical ones first. So stabilize operations first. And then secondly, a comprehensive analysis of the entire organization. And I would say many of these issues predate implementation of the billing system. I think the organization had been structured based on some old systems and manual processes. And so it's not just looking at making the billing system run, but looking at the entire organization. So that by the time that the project is over, that we leave in place the organization and the processes to be able to move forward and not just put Band-Aids on fixed backlogs and then have the same problem cropping up all over again. So that was a major activity in phase one. And I would say we've accomplished both of these. I think the basic operation now, and you'll see, I think is improving. It's much improved in some areas. It's improving in other areas. And we have a comprehensive list of the things that we need to knock off by June that really will bring the Water Division to I'd say equivalent to any in the country. It'll be a well-run operation at that point. And then I'll sort of go through each area. I'm not going to go through a lot of the details here, but maybe entertain your questions later if you have interest in any specific ones. But these are examples of some of the meter reading issues. One was the meter reading device. Whenever a meter reader keyed in a meter reading, it always beeped saying that the meter reading is wrong. I mean, 100% of the time. So that basic check that is sort of key to helping the meter reader make sure they get the right reading, and just wasn't working. So that was fixed, and we know we have at least an 8% improvement in the accuracy of meter readings just from this check alone. That's 33,000 bills that now don't have to go through an edit process, can go directly into billing. So just an example of a relatively small thing, but it's made a pretty big impact. Vacant property information, we had a major project to look at 6 different databases and to be able to understand which properties actually are vacant, so that we don't spend our time questioning zero reads and sending bills to properties, abandoned properties, that the bills get returned. So that was a major project that's been completed. A lot of field activities. This was a carryover from implementation of the system. Customer reps put a lot of field activities. These are work orders that go out to the meter operations to either check on a meter or do something that hadn't been completed. And when something like that is in the system refuses to accept another order. So if a customer calls in and needs something, now they really need something done, and 6 months ago the previous order wasn't acted upon, you can't get that new one into the system. So this was really inhibiting service. So we cleaned up, over 10,000 of those activities we got out of the system. So now we can operate currently with calls coming in. And identifying true non-progressive meters. This is the same issue that I just mentioned, where maybe there's a zero read, multiple quarters. The new system kicked that out as an exception, when in many cases, let's say in the winter, if somebody say goes south for 3 months, they're going to have zero consumption. So that's a legitimate read, and it should go out. So this was something that we needed to. We now have identified those properties. Those should be billed properly. Accurate bills, effective with implementation of the system. There were 2,500 bills, accounts. This, I guess, is good for the customer, but not for the water department. They had never been set up in the system. So customers are using water, but there's no account set up in the system. So we've now implemented all of those. Those are all in the system. And we have a good procedure in place now for the first time that when a new customer signs up through the permits organization in engineering, the engineering organization now takes the account information and gets that in. So again, a very basic process that had not been in place and was costing a lot of revenue. Of course, this also causes customer problems when you ultimately find these and then say do a back billing, and then that's a frustrated customer. So this has spin-off benefits. And these are other examples. I don't think I'll go through any more of these, but these are just example after example. There were, I don't know if we mentioned this later, but in phase 1 we had roughly 125 of these kinds of things. Each one of these we call a work item. We completed 125 work items. So I've told you about 6 or 7 here, and these are some of the highlights that I think lots of people will understand. There are a lot more that are pretty arcane, but still, when you add them up, they're the reason for a big backlog of issues with the billing operation. Next, moving to the customer call area, this was a rather simple thing to do, and yet, phone wait times. I saw newspaper articles quoting 45-minute delays. I've had some people say it was actually longer than that. The average wait time, I think when we started the project, I guess the beginning of the year was about 16 minutes. When we started the project, it was down in the 4-minute range or so. A modern operation really needs to have an average wait time of 30 seconds or less. We need most calls answered in less than 30 seconds. 80% in 30 seconds, that's the industry standard. And so that was the target we set. And we're achieving that target. Abandoned call rates of less than 5%, meaning if you call in, you don't give up. 5% or less is pretty typical, and our abandoned call rates were running 40%, 50% when the project started. So now we're achieving that goal. We consolidated all the call centers under one manager. These are some of the reasons why we were able to make these improvements. We had 2 different managers over 3 different work queues, so it doesn't take a whole lot of genius to understand that if you divide up your reps into so many different groups, some are going to be sitting idle and others are going to be overloaded, and so consolidating those, all of those groups and training them all to do all of the basic job functions, it really has been a key to helping to resolve this issue. The third one, developing call scripts. Again, fairly standard process. The number one call we get is a billing call. My bill is inaccurate. I think there's something wrong with it. And the first thing you do, you don't send a meter order out to get the meter changed. The first thing is to look at the bill, and many times the bill is accurate, and you just need to explain. There's a process to go through to explain to the customer what the issue is with the bill before first triggering a meter change. So developing these standard processes and then training customer reps in it, that was a key part of work we did in the first phase. Cross-training the customer reps, and then creating a dedicated work group for those tougher issues rather than shoving everybody into the same process. Some of the larger commercial customers, I think we've especially run across some with the multifamily housing that need some special attention to work through. And then some customers, some of the bills, especially because of the past couple of years, there's some pretty rough-looking bills out there that need some extra attention. So being able to get those into a group that's skilled, 4 or 5 people that really can focus on those and resolve those very quickly. And these are the results. The blue line at the top is the 80% of calls in 30 seconds, and you can see that roughly since about mid-June, we've pretty much been at that level. There was a blip there in early August, but then we were back on track. And the green at the end here really is coming from the improved focus on collections, and I'll talk about that next. But collections is not the first thing we tackled, but we really got strong feedback from City Council and also from many of our jurisdictional partners that we bill sewer for that really wanted us to be focusing on the collections as well. So we put a strong focus on that. And calls to make payments are now well over 100 a day more than they've ever been at the organization. So that's what's happening over here recently, is a lot more people calling. In fact, calls to make payments are now more than the calls over high bill complaints. So that's a good sign. It's a short-term issue as we work through some of those recent large bills. And then the next section is collecting money that had built up. Well, I guess I'll show you the numbers a bit later, but certainly the delinquent bills had more than doubled since the system was implemented. And this not only is a Cleveland water problem, but NEORSD, with even bigger problem for them, and then the 7 or 8 other jurisdictions that Cleveland Water bills sewer for, where the delinquencies were rising. So we really restarted in August a much more intensive effort on collections. Interestingly, I don't know why, but the automated collections function had never been implemented as part of the system implementation. So essentially, it's a manual process, but it can be done, and we're actually doing it manually now. You'll see that automating the collections operation is a key part of what we want to do in phase 2, but we're able to get back on track with the manual process. We are contacting all of the customers, anybody with any kind of a dispute or pended a bill, any kind of an account problem. We make sure we work through those first, then contact the customer to make sure there's no problems before we start the disconnection process. And then the last one's really a simple thing. We had been sending a lot of active accounts to the collection agency that really were causing more customer issues than anything, rather than us dealing directly with these accounts. So that's been a big help. The first one is a pretty simple little thing. The bill, there was no way really for a customer to know why the bill was due. It was lumping a few different items together, and so we needed to change the bill a bit to make it much more clear. That's really helped with our explanations with customers on, why do I owe this money, what's it for? It really has helped customer reps deal with that. The next two are very, very interesting. I guess put in for good reasons. I've heard people make a case for this, but we had established, unlike anything that the division ever did before, credit score as a criterion for disconnection. So if you had a high credit score, you didn't get your disconnection notice, you didn't get into the collection process as quickly. So we had two classes of customers out there, and in setting that up, there was a system issue that every time there was some kind of a billing issue, the credit review date would keep getting pushed back. And we had, I can't even understand how this was happening, but we had credit review dates out as far as 2040, meaning you'll not even come up for having your credit reviewed until 2040. And so this whole credit review issue we had a meeting and very quickly decided let's just eliminate credit score as a criterion. If you owe money, let's have a fair process. It's a lenient process to begin with. It's well known on the bill. The customers are given plenty of time, plenty of advance notice, and if you're above the threshold, whatever that is for disconnection, $500, $300, whatever it is, if you're above that threshold and it's been a certain amount of time, everybody gets treated the same, and so eliminate credit score. So that's really helped to clean up the process. Again, just a less complicated process, treating everybody fairly. So that's been a big help. And you can see the change in collections here. The bottom lines, these bar graphs of blue, are the numbers of disconnections per year that have historically been made. 2004 through 2010, 2011 is off to the right. And this, just to give you a perspective, that we have 420,000 accounts. So 14,000 a year, not on a percentage basis a huge number, but because it is a relatively small group of people that, that have trouble paying the bills. So, but you can see we're at 14,000 cuts a year until 2008. 2008, I think there was some staffing reductions, I believe is what happened. And we dropped to 11,000. 2009 implemented the system, and in September of 2009 suspended cutting accounts until middle of 2010. So 2009 and 10, very small number of disconnections. And you can see the corresponding collections rate, which used to be very good, 98, 99%. I mean, that's as good as anybody in the country does. I've worked in two other very large cities, Washington, D.C., Richmond, Virginia, and I don't think we had very good operations there. I don't think we had this kind of collections rate. So this is an outstanding collections rate. But it dropped, you can see it's exactly proportional or relational to the number of cuts, dropping to 88%, and this corresponds to the rise in delinquent accounts. We're back on track now because of the collection process. We started that in August, and year to date, the collections rate is 98%. So I feel like and that's with a manual process. So as we automate, we'll be able to do it with a lot less staff, a lot more efficiently, but it feels like that's probably back on track. This is the receivables. Again, the amounts owed, you can see before, the red line is when the new billing system was put in place. At that point, accounts receivable was about 50 million total, with just under 20 million over 180 days delinquent. And when the project started, the 20 million had grown to about 43 million, so more than doubled the over 180 days amount. And that's directly related to lack of a disconnection process. And that's now, so that was growing at about $1 million a month, like clockwork almost. And since the collection process has gone in place, it's actually declining. It's sort of hard to see the green line here. It looks sort of flat, but it's actually coming down $500,000. 1 month it actually came down about $1 million. So I think this whole collections issue is on its way to being resolved. This other area, prioritizing projects. Cleveland Water had a rate increase July 16. In the bottom here, there's 9 other jurisdictions, including NERSD and others who have rate changes going in. So these need to be managed. They need to be done well and going in properly, accurately, with no impact on customers. The AMR project, automated metering, and maybe this is a good time to talk about that. That's a project that was underway and intended to start last August, and really would have caused probably more customer issues than the billing system implementation, because the organization just was not ready to take it on. So we integrated that project with the turnaround project. We'll start that project in June. Some of you probably will hear something about it now. There's about 40 data collectors. These are automated meter readings, radio reads from the meter to one of 40 collectors in the region, and that gets sent back to a central computer by a cell phone call. Ultimately, soon after implementation, customers actually online can sign in and you can see your own meter reading. If you think you got a billing problem, you think you have a leak or something, you can actually see daily what the usage was. So it'll be tremendous benefit. And actually, in Washington, we implemented a call-out process where we have your phone number or email address, and if consumption spikes over a certain amount on any particular day, you can send a note saying, you know, maybe you want to check something out, your consumption has gone up. So it's really a huge help with dealing with customer issues and billing issues. If you think the usage is wrong, you can see exactly what happened each day. Want to move to the next? And the last area here of responsiveness to you know, the 65, 70 jurisdictions that the city serves. We now have a single point of contact within the division for all of these requests, that they're now managed, prioritized. They get into the, it's an information technology group that manages these, and so they get onto the list. Any kind of rate changes jump right to the top, and we've got to make sure that those are done properly. If it's something that's a little lower priority, we communicate back and work with each of the jurisdictional parties, whoever that may be, to make sure that we're meeting those needs. Secondly, the implementation strategy for the rate changes we talked about. NERSD, this is a good benefit for customers in that there's a separate NERSD, we bill for sewer for them, and there's a separate phone number, but it doesn't really say what that's for. So customers sometimes will call NERSD when the water division can handle the call just fine. So we're working with NERSD on making sure that you know, when a customer calls one or the other, that both parties are trained and we're not transferring calls back and forth. It's the same customer, so no need to bat them back and forth. Try to give NERSD access that lets them make the changes into the system more efficiently. So this is we're really seeing some good payoffs here in terms of customer communication, so that as far as the customer is concerned, you know, they're getting handled. They don't know if it's water or sewer, so whichever number they call, they get the call taken care of without being transferred all over the place. Let's move to the next. The next is it's just an example of some of the metrics. We have about 40 of these now in the 4 main work areas, and this is what we're starting to live by in each area, which is how did things work yesterday? What are the biggest issues that we're facing? You know, are those, if something needs to be done, a report or a system issue, is that on the list? Is something new happening that we didn't anticipate? So this is a new, will be really the hallmark of the organization going forward to manage by. As I said, phase 1, you know, we quoted as stop the bleeding, stabilize things, the root cause analysis, and then focus on the highest value fixes. Phase 2 now is to finish the job. We have a lot of new procedures out there. We have standard operating procedures that has been developed for pretty much all the areas, and certain training has been done, but it's to make sure that these now are a normal part of business every day. So working with each of the work units to entrench these operations and to make them standard. Finish the core system fixes. There are still on the order of 40 or 50 things that really need to be fixed. You can limp by without them, but you really haven't solved the problem if we let those go. So those need to be finished. Complete the mandatory projects, the rates, the AMR project needs to go live, so get those projects implemented. And then the prioritized enhancements. This basically is do as much else that makes good business sense as we can between now and June. And there's adequate budget. The project team is staffed to be able to knock off all of the priority enhancements. And then some of these issues, data integrity fixes, I mean, just to give you a couple examples, there's interfacing issues, so a lot of manual work still going on that we want to complete. Resolve all of the backlogs. That's our intent. Come June, that will be almost 3 years since implementation. There's no reason to have backlogs anymore at that point. It's just something we're going to make sure that we eliminate them. And so we're into a routine operation that we can handle on a normal basis. Complete the other CWD priorities, and I think I've talked about these, and the mandatory projects. I think I've talked about those. And that would then complete the project. So, no, I'm really very excited to have been a part of this project. It's been fantastic to see. The city has committed the resources to make sure that the job gets done. The basic employee capability in the organization is very good. There's no issue there. It's a matter of direction, organization. I don't know if Ollie Shaw was introduced, but Ollie was named 2 days ago to lead this organization going forward. She's got the understanding, she's got the drive, and there's no doubt that she's going to be able to take over all of these things that we're doing and make sure that they're implemented. So I'm very, very happy to have been a part of this. Jason, you want to pick up the organization? And then we'll maybe take questions at the end.
Yep.
Okay.
As we worked through a good portion of the phase 1 fixes and changes that Paul just outlined and detailed, one of the things we realized is that the organizational structure had been set up in a way historically that didn't necessarily align with the new billing system, with some of the new processes, with some of the future technological and operational and financial challenges we were going to face as an organization moving forward. So what we really kind of noticed was that a lot of our business areas, particularly in the customer service side, had been operating in silos. There wasn't a lot of communications across the individual sections. For an example, as we worked through the backlogs, we would have periods where we would have to kind of send out a large volume of bills. The billing department would clear those bills, they'd verify them, they'd send them out. They wouldn't let the call center know. The call center would get an influx of calls. They weren't necessarily staffed at the level to handle those calls. Call times would spike up. So what we wanted to do was look for the ability to break down some of those silos and really strengthen the business's focus on customer service. We saw some redundant operations across the various divisions, the functional areas within customer service. One of the ones that's probably the most interesting is we have 20 different meter investigators working in 6 different work units, all doing the same type of functions, spread out across different areas. We've got meter investigators in the meter reading section, in the meter repair section, in the administration section. We've got meter investigators in permits and sales. So we had all these folks doing the same job spread out very widely across the organization. We also came to the realization that what we needed to look at doing was also looking at providing a little bit more support from the key functions that kind of underlie customer service. Our customer service functions we tend to think of as the meter to cash process, going out, collecting meter reads, bringing those back to the billing system, generating bills, answering customer calls, and then ultimately collecting the money when it comes in. But so much of what goes into that process is really underlined by a series of core functions, things like human resources, information technology, finance, and then this kind of what we would call public affairs. These were spread out across the departmental divisions within water, Cleveland Public Power, water pollution control, really kind of across the divisions finding some redundancy as well. So what we did was we went back and looked for about the past 2 years. There have been a series of studies that have looked at the organizational structure of the Division of Water, in particular the Department of Public Utilities as well. So we went to those organizational reviews and really kind of looked at what was in those and tried to identify some strategies that we could use to implement to allow the organization to continue to grow and improve upon the changes that it had made in the past. What we did with this was come up with a reorganization plan that was really designed to do a series of things. We wanted to improve the overall operational efficiency. If we can remove some of the redundancy both within and across the Division of Water and the other divisions within the Department of Public Utilities, we can really begin to provide a better cost-effective level of customer service. We can help reduce our internal costs, become more efficient, and really help drive customer service to where it needed to be. And that really starts by trying what we would call deliver excellent customer service. What we want to do is we wanted to make customer service the top priority of the Department of Public Utilities. As Director Withers mentioned in his opening remarks, Division of Water has historically been very good at delivering a high-quality product. We get great tap water from the lake to your house. We haven't necessarily always been as focused on customer service. So what we wanted to do was develop an organizational structure that would allow us to be more responsive to our partners, our customers, and really kind of elevate customer service as a priority as we move forward. We also, one more. I guess that's the hurry up cue. We also wanted to create a structure that facilitates accountability. When we looked at customer service within the Division of Water, it was buried beneath multiple layers. Those functional managers who are the direct supervisors of our collections, our customer care, our billing, our meter section, were buried underneath administrative managers who reported to an assistant commissioner, who would report to a deputy commissioner, who would report to a commissioner. So it wasn't a structure that really facilitated an accountable organization. So what we did was we looked at a structure that would simplify our organizational structure so that it's much easier to identify problems, elevate those problems for solution, solve the problems, and then hold folks accountable when problems aren't solved in a timely manner. As we look towards kind of more of the longer term perspectives of these things, what we really needed to make sure that we were doing was positioning the Department of Public Utilities and Cleveland Water for any future changes. We got into a little bit of trouble with the billing system because we had old work process that didn't align with the new technology that we installed. So what we wanted to do was create an organizational structure that allowed us to align both our organization and any future technological, operational, or financial challenge we may face as an organization moving forward. We wanted to do this in a way that allows Cleveland Water to focus on its core activity. As we said, they are very good at delivering a quality water product. What we wanted to do was create a structure that allows them to do that job as well as humanly possible, while also allowing the Department of Public Utilities to provide a level of customer service that matches the quality of that water. So what did we do? Well, probably the biggest change that you'll see and kind of experience and feel, and your citizens will notice as they go and engage with Cleveland Water moving forward, is we elevated customer service to a departmental level priority. We've, as Paul mentioned, have created or filled the assistant director position in the Department of Public Utilities and have tasked it with direct operational control of the Cleveland Water's customer service operations. Ali Shaw, who's Paul has already introduced but deserves to be introduced again because she's our point of contact on this type of issue, will have direct control over the CWD or Cleveland Water customer service functions. So now instead of reporting through administrative managers, assistant commissioners, deputy commissioners, and on up, those functional managers, the folks who are on a day-to-day have the day-to-day responsibility for managing our collections, our billing, our customer service call center operations, will report directly to Ms. Shaw. And what this does is it elevates customer service to a level where it's much closer to the folks who can more easily be held accountable by your citizens and our customers. It's a departmental level priority. We're going to be able to do that. She'll also have some operational oversight across CPP and water pollution control, but her main focus in the interim or in the immediate near future will be on the customer service operations of Cleveland Water. We have also looked to consolidate what we call these functional or support services at the departmental level as well. We've created positions for a chief information officer, a chief financial officer, a chief of public affairs, and a chief of human resources. By doing so, we want to take some of the redundancies out across the divisions, leverage talent that we have in other divisions within water and vice versa, and really facilitate an organizational structure that's designed to position the organization for future success. What we found is we just hadn't necessarily aligned individual job functions and responsibilities with the skills of the folks who were there. We have kind of restructured in a way that puts people in a position to succeed, so that way the organization can succeed moving forward as well. And that's the kind of the very quick overview of the restructuring process, and I know a lot of you are probably pretty anxious to get to questions and answers. So I guess we'll open it up to any questions and answers you might have at this point. Oh, sorry.
This program that's being implemented, you indicated that it's going to be ending sometime next year. What is going to be the two of your involvements after it's completed?
Well, I guess the answer to that question, as we move to the end of phase 2 in June of 2012, we'll have the organization at what we would like to think of as a steady state of operations. Paul's involvement will end and he will move on. I'm actually a full-time CWD employee. In our organizational structure, I'm, as of about 55 hours ago, the Chief of Public Affairs. So I will continue with the organization and work very closely with Ms. Shaw, who was appointed the other day as the Assistant Director overseeing customer service. So my involvement with the operation will continue. Mr. Bender's will end.
When dealing with collections, have you noticed any disparity between owner-occupied and landlord or owner-occupied properties?
I'll hand that one to Paul and let him answer that one.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's no, I don't think we've noticed any trends or anything, no. Yes.
Let me, she's got the mic. I've got the mic. Go ahead.
In listening to the presentation, it sounds like so anyone here work for a phone company, you'll understand, right, Gene, what I'm about to say. You plan, organize, and control, and you have processes and procedures now in place.
That's correct.
Was
yes.
your objective, correct? I kept waiting for the bottom line. As a result of all of this, what new revenues have been generated?
Well, the collections is running at about 99%. So, yeah, 2% equates to about $5 million a year that had been accumulating per year, growing in new account in old accounts receivable. So it's added about $5 million per year to revenues. That'd be on an annual basis. I don't have the specific number to date. I mean, we started the collections activity in August, and I think it's probably been on the order of $3 million additional collections that would not have been done otherwise. On an annual basis, though, it's well over $5 million per year, right, to get back to the 98% level, yes. And I would note it's even bigger benefit than that if you look broadly. That's just water. NERSD revenues are even increased even more than that because the NERSD bill is somewhat higher.
You said it was basically $5 million of pulling in additional revenue. How much is the total department revenue?
Total department is about $240 million a year.
Okay. And then
NERSD is what, 300 million plus? Yeah.
So you netted out to 2%. What was the cost of implementation of the program?
The initial system was on the order of 20 plus million for the initial system.
Are you asking about the CCNB implementation or the turnaround, the cost of the turnaround project?
Well, as a ratepayer, I think we'd want to know both of them. Okay. I mean, if you're saying that we netted the system netted $5 million more, and the cost of it was $20 million, then it was a good investment. I mean, it was 4 years. You got your money. The ratepayers got their money back.
Yeah, no, I think you need to look at the long run. That's a one-time investment
right.
In the system. The benefits are going to accrue for 30 years. So the other thing, I think you need to look at the total investment. Really, the AMR project is on the order of $100 million. That's to take out 420,000 meters or retrofit them if they're fairly new. That is going to be a substantial revenue increase. I mean, you can I mean, I think conservatively, you're looking at 5% increase in revenues. It could be as high as 10% increase in revenues from old meters. And that's not just water, that's sewer billings as well. So, you know, on a $500 million base per year, to jump that by 5 to 7%. And that system, you can't do that system without a modern billing system. The other benefits, I think, of the systems are the unquantifiable ones, the access that customers have to the technology, the access to their accounts that they never have had before. So I think you bring all that together, the investment will definitely pay for itself. The key thing was getting it back on track.
Thank you. I want to thank you for coming out here and giving the presentation that you did. As a councilman in North Olmsted, I get calls from residents regarding water leaks. Now, your response time on phone has improved. Your response time on billing problems has improved. I'm wondering, are we going to see an improvement in response time to water line leaks in the middle of a street? Is this part of this whole process?
Yeah, no, that our focus is on the billing operation, and I'd ask the director to respond to the operations question.
The short answer is yes. One of the things that we are implementing is matrix and work standards and work agreements. An example, in prior times, I don't know if we adequately charted how long it took us to get the place. You know, we had estimate. Now we have a system that allows us to say exactly when we received the call, exactly when we got there, exactly when we completed the call, etc. We have matrix in order to do that. And we'll be able to evaluate not only crews, but supervisors, etc., as well as the quality of a job. So you'll see some increased quality as relates to that. Secondly, we'll be able to track that electronically. The biggest thing we've done is gone from a paper system and a manual system to a system that has some technology. The advantages of technology is management. You cannot manage what you can't measure. As we begin to be able to measure different elements of work product, we'll be able to improve those things. And we'll be able to say, if you call me and say, Mr. Withers, we had a water main break at X Avenue, and we weren't satisfied with the response, I can go back, I can tell you when we got there, when we didn't, I can evaluate, I can see if there was a system issue, whether it was a staffing issue, or whether it was just performance issue, and be able to address that at an individual level. So we should be able to see some benefits from that.
If I may follow up on that, I think one of the biggest frustrations is a resident calls and says, we have a water leak on our street. Who do we call? And I say, well, you got to call the Cleveland Water Department. I, in turn, will call police or service to notify them to see if they know that leak is happening. And then 2 days or 3 days go by, and you drive by and it's still leaking, and it's bubbled from one side of the street to the other side of the street. And I know you have priorities, and you probably have a ranking system of how much water is coming out of the ground. But then I look at it from a standpoint of our city, that why that water's leaking, it's undermining the street. And so you fix the water line, and you move on to another leak, and then we'll have to deal with a buckling or a sinking street. And I just wonder if a faster response would help rectify that problem, that we don't have more expense because of a water main leak.
Yes, you are correct. We want to be able to respond to a leak as quickly as possible. Sometimes we can detect them because of pressure in our system. We have hydraulics, etc. And sometimes we don't. We depend on people being able to contact us. And we have an improved phone system, so it makes it a little easier for people to contact us now. But we do some matrix on that, and from an operational standpoint. One of the advantages of the reorganization, it allows the Division of Water to concentrate on the operation of the water system. The customer service and the bill paying and the customer facing will be done out of the director's office. Ms. Shaw, who works directly for me, will be able to respond to those billing issues. The operational stuff will be the Commissioner of Water. We have a new Commissioner of Water who wasn't able to be here, but he'll be the person who's responsible for those type of things.
Have you increased your repair crews?
we are looking at our staffing now. We have not, our repair crews are not being, not to any significant level. What we have done is to chart them to make sure they're more effective. We have some crews that are more effective than others.
The reason why I'm asking you that, we had an incident last winter. We shut down an entire street in my area. I went there to check on your crew, offer them some coffee. All of a sudden I hear, we're leaving. We have an emergency on the east side. My area was shut down for many, many hours, and the councilman received the call. So could that possibly happen again?
If you give me I can't answer that specifically because I don't know. I don't know the particular reason. If the delay was because of waiting for equipment, waiting for a pipe, or waiting for, I can ask you more specifically. But the goal is to fix all of this as expeditiously as possible. At certain times of the year, we have more breaks than we have crews, and unfortunately it's a weather function sometimes.
I commend your crews.
Yeah.
They work under some extreme conditions, but to leave an entire area of the city, on hold with no water, to go someplace else, it's kind of hard to accept.
Yeah, well, and you have every reason to be upset. Our priorities are when we have shortages of crews and we have competing interests. Our priorities are hospitals, nursing homes, facilities in which there is a life-threatening situation. We don't want anybody to be inconvenienced, but we do make the priority for if there's a hospital, if there's a nursing home, there's a senior, there's a large building with lots of people, etc. We sort of prioritize those, and so occasionally we do have to make those type decisions.
Thank you.
My question has to do with the billing, and on my bill you've got the first MCF, and if I laid a 10-foot by 10-foot, 10-foot high cube out here, that's what 1 MCF is. The first one is roughly 24 something. The second one and beyond is twice that amount, 48. I understand the cost of setting up a system so that I can draw from it. There's a certain level of customer and of dollar revenue you've got to have to keep the system running so it can be drawn from. But why is it then that my first cube, 10 by 10 by 10, is X? My second one, and therefore beyond, is twice X in cost. Or should my effective rate be something like 34 in the middle? It doesn't, there's something doesn't quite come, where does this double come from once you cross this magic 1,000 cubic feet?
Yeah, no, conservation is the primary reason. I mean, the systems, it's a pretty standard pricing mechanism for water in the country that you try to keep that first volume that most people need to get by day in and day out. Keep that relatively low so that everybody can afford that lowest level, and then price the succeeding MCF. MCF, by the way, 7,500 gallons is an MCF, so that second 7,500 is priced higher. And then conservation is the primary reason for it, though.
Well, the basic question is conservation with this caveat. There is a line with or without conservation which you must have in incoming revenue for the system to be viable. If you go below that in conservation, you raise the rates. That's the other side of it.
Yeah, no, there are several different issues at play that need to be balanced, obviously, and you've pointed them out. The fixed charge was raised with this last rate change to try to address some of that, because the fixed costs of the people, the pipes in the street, the investment in the plant, I mean, those are there whether one drop of water is used or 80 billion gallons. So the more that the department can recover from the fixed costs, the better. But tradition is a big part of it. Most people want to pay for what they use, not a big fixed charge. So it's a balancing of all of those interests. And the other thing is you're trying to, whatever the structure was, and I mean, this is a typical structure that you see nationally. You don't want to change the structure too much year to year, but I think that's looked at certainly every 5 years when the department does its rate study as to what's the appropriate mix between the first MCF, the second MCF, and the fixed charge. But it has to balance all of those different priorities. Any more?
And this is a follow-up. I've come
Okay.
to a lot of meetings. This is the first time I've been disinterested in something that's right at the heart of part of my problems as a council person.
Yes.
The new rates, and I'm sure that the people here on the dais did not actually set the rates, but needless to say, we have a problem with the rate increase. That is an issue in our community. Now, that being said, my concern, and I hope the rest of council, is that we have no idea how these rates are derived. We have no input. We don't. All we know is that they're set, and this is an educational process going on right now. And I think this should be ongoing. There should be something in place that a member of this body, or this is my opinion, should have privilege to the rate setting process. And you wouldn't meet with a lot of the opposition that in some point you might meet with. But that being said, I'm hearing about a fixed rate, and common sense, you know, we have to have money on hand to make improvements, but we really didn't know how all of that came to pass. So my issue is, how do we get involved with the rate setting process and understand this? And now that you have all of these new procedures, I'm hoping that you have something in your organization that will keep us a part of that. That's why I came tonight. I'd like to know before we, and I think it's great that this is happening in the private sector. This is how the world, this is the real world, what you're doing now. And it's an awesome, awesome thing. I commend you. But from a political standpoint and from we need to know, how do you set these rates, and give us some involvement.
Let me respond two ways. As part of the court decision, I think in the 80s, that had to do with the establishment of the COG, the Council of Government, which is a body of governments that meet with the Water Department on a regular basis. There's a process for, we meet with them on a quarterly basis. And I would encourage more participation in that. We have those meetings, and sometimes we don't have a lot of participation. One of the tasks and responsibilities that Dr. Woods would have is to begin a more extensive process of community outreach. About a year and a half ago, we started what we call customer service fairs. We went out to various communities, and we brought our staffs, we brought customer service reps, we brought information, and we answered whatever question. We tried to make folks as familiar as possible with how we operated. We wanted to be transparent. We wanted to make sure that folks understood that we were getting ready to do rates, that rates were based, that some of the issues that we had in constructing rates, such as declining consumption, issues of standards, water standards, EPA testing, all those things had to do with the establishment of rates, etc. So we want to be, one of the reasons that we attending events like this is something we've never done before. We want to be transparent. We want to be a part of the community. We go wherever we're asked, and we'll continue to do that.
To kind of build off of what the director said, one of the areas that as soon as the director and I started to have conversations about taking on a new role within the organization that I recognized very immediately we needed to do a better job of was this outward communications and events like this. I I'm going to say this, and I'm going to run out of cards if everyone wants one. But we'll talk afterwards. I'll give you my card. Feel free to call me. We also have Margaret Jackson, who works in our government affairs area, who is wonderful, easy to contact. My number, it's the standard water 664-2444. I'm extension 5804. Jason_Wood at clevelandwater.com. More than happy to sit down and talk and let you know anything that you need and help you out.
Well, specifically, I'll just spit it out. I'd like to know what has been happening to have a representative, doesn't matter, so that we are a part of the rate setting process. That's my question. That's my issue.
What? Go ahead.
Let me say, I wish my city council representatives, the city council in the city of Cleveland set rates by ordinance. It's a city asset, and city council has the right to set rate. Any difference in that is something that it's a political discussion. But we are open to any discussion. We take input, but the actual setting of rates is by ordinance, a city council process.
We do, when we go into the regular rate setting process, there are a series of public hearings that are held, and we can certainly make sure that Cleveland City Council has your interest and notifies you guys about participation in those hearings. So there are public hearings that are held, and we'll make sure that you're included when we go into the next rate setting process.
I just wanted to, three things naturally, and I was pleased with a lot of what I heard today. Water quality is always job one, and Cleveland Water's always been noted for excellent quality, and it's good to hear they're even continuing to do more to give us better water. I'm very pleased to hear that there has been improvements in customer service, because quality is assumed. Customer service is what our residents get frustrated with. Try to put a little humor to it. So often you just needed, if you wanted to get anything done with customer service, you had to go to Ms. Waite. I think you're familiar with Helen. You got a problem with Cleveland Water, go to Helen Waite, was what we had to live with for many years. So I'm very pleased that customer service is being upgraded. The third and the last thing I'd like to say is we have agreements with Cleveland Water that when they were written probably 60, 70 years ago were win-win agreements. Systems were new. The agreement was we would put the lines in, you would maintain them. Now the systems are old and it's a lose-lose because we're having leak problems. It's our, as a suburb's responsibility, like we have no revenue sources really so often to cover it. I would like you, as you get customer service under control, it sounds like it's working out very well, the plans are in place, to start looking at ways of helping us improve and upgrade our systems, which will make a lot of your demands easier as far as not as many leaks.
Well, do you want to talk about water service agreements?
We have, thank you for raising that issue, because it is the issue. The next significant problem that we are going to have to overcome is infrastructure problems, as a lot of these infrastructures become older. One of the things that we've been doing is encouraging people to join what we call the water service agreements, the new water service agreements, in which we provide approximately $10 million a year for infrastructure projects that we will assist communities with as part of taking responsibility for some of their infrastructure. And we're looking at how we can add more money to that, how we can be a little more assisting in resolving that issue, because as some of our communities become older, and as we're not going to get any less water main breaks. We're going to begin to get more. And so we have to really kind of figure out how to deal with that. And so we're willing to work with communities to try to figure out the best way to do that. And that is the next issue. Over the next few years, we're going to have to really begin to think about how do we respond to that.
Okay, we're going to take 3 more questions, I think, and then we're going to wrap up.
Want me to take all three?
No.
On the issue of water main breaks, if one of our constituents calls and says there's a water main break, what's the telephone number that they call?
Yeah, there's an emergency line, 664 31 30, yeah.
3130, and it's the first option.
And that's the 24-hour-a-day.
Yeah.
It's an automated queue. They'll go right into the 24-hour center. Yes.
And then I think you mentioned a little bit about it, everything about conservation and people using less water, rain barrels, eco-friendly, all that stuff. That's impacted you, and you see that in the future?
Consumption is down greatly. And it's because of a number of issues. One is that people are just more cost conscious. People have appliances that use less water. Households are smaller. And so consumption has gone down nationally over the last couple of years.
And then, as you say, you mentioned infrastructure. What's your current state and what's on the horizon for your future infrastructure?
Well, we've spent, as I said, the last 10 years, $600 million on the upgrading the plants. Our next 10 or 12 years, we're going to spend on upgrading the infrastructure. We're going to have to put pipe in the ground. We're going to have to reline pipes. We're going to have to just kind of make sure we don't waste the water we have in leaks.
Thank you. I think that was about 3 questions.
Excuse me if I missed the first part of your presentation, but one of the reasons that we wanted to have you out here today is the idea that any profits or any revenues that even though the City of Cleveland Council passes these rates, all the funds and revenues stay for the water department, and we're not by us in the suburbs paying higher water rates. We're not building a park for the City of Cleveland. Is that correct?
That is correct. The Cleveland Division Water is what we term an enterprise fund, so all revenues generated within the enterprise stay in the enterprise.
Thank you. One more question. And while we're with this last question, can I ask everyone to fill out their questionnaires just so we can get an idea of where we're moving towards forums and locations? Thank you.
It wouldn't be a forum if I didn't ask a question anyway. I guess I get the last one this time. Back to the infrastructure issue. People realize, rate increases are a fact of life. They'll complain and complain and complain about them. But one of the biggest things that you can do to offset those complaints is infrastructure. If people see things going on in the ground or out of the ground or whatever it is, they start becoming more comfortable. They see that their money is going somewhere. As you mentioned, you've signed many agreements now taking over the water systems in many of the communities. The question that still comes up is what type of priority now are you going to arrange as to how some of these mains are going to need to be replaced, because some of them needed to be replaced decades ago. We all have seen the relining and the valve replacements that have been going on in Cleveland now for quite some time. That needs to be done in the suburbs. Let's face it, most of the valves that have been in the ground for more than 30, 40 years don't work anymore. You can't even turn off some of the roads when you do go to replace water mains, and you have to put the temporary patch by just clamping it on over the old main, which doesn't last much more than 5 or 6 years again before you're out there again. There are many roads in the suburbs that you've got to patch every 30, 40 feet. What type of priority are you going to use based on, is it going to be based on a break history? Is it going to be based on the age of the water main? Have you set up any procedure or anything for the suburbs like you have to some degree in Cleveland?
Yes, there is a procedure that's part of the water service agreement. It's a combination of the trying to leverage other projects with it, breakage. We keep track of the number of breaks in a particular main. the age of the pipe, et cetera. All those things go into rating the projects that we fund as part of the water service agreements.
Okay, I think that wraps up our water department, and I'd like to thank Director Withers from the Public Utilities Service for his presentation, and also Jason. I worked very closely with Jason to put this together. I hope you all found this to be a very informative forum, and you will be able to view it on the website, so don't forget to visit our website, and don't forget to rejoin NOCCA for 2012. That is the process that is going now moving forward, and we will be having our annual meeting in February. That information will be forthcoming. Thank you all for coming. Have a safe trip home, and we're done. Thank you.